Steve here with Dr. Nario. Thanks for being here, Doctor.
Hi, Steve. Thank you for having me again. Always a pleasure.
All right, so we're going to talk about electronics in the home.
Mhm.
First, let me say you guys can go to Biointegrative Health Center online and check out their website, and you can see what they treat there at the clinic where Dr. Nario works. Um, you probably know that if you've watched any of our videos. So, I know a lot of people are I'd say some are extreme and even paranoid of holding their cell phone or putting things in their ears, and some people aren't, and maybe rightfully so, right? So what are your first thoughts about this?
Well, Steve, it's actually what they're afraid of. It's not the phone, it's the energy emitted by that phone. It's called electromagnetic fields or frequencies. And these are actually invisible areas of energy. And of course, we call it radiation. And the thing here is, it's usually most of them are man made, but there are actually natural ways in how you get EMFs. And what how we classify them would be either low frequency or high frequency. When you say low frequency, these are more of the non-ionizing or really uh, we think of non-destructible sources, and these are the ones in our houses like microwaves, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, cell phones, and it's and part of our everyday thing. That's why we were thinking, it's nothing, right? And that's why it's harmful as defined. And there are another types of EMF would be high frequency, and these are what we call the ionizing, meaning the one that actually destroys. And we just spoke about X-rays before, UV rays from the sun, and even gamma rays. And our focus today would be mainly on these we thought harmless ones, which are low frequencies.
Yeah, and I know that there are ways to protect yourself from these low frequency patterns, like cell phones and so on. So, what are some of the things or precautions that we can take to protect ourselves?
Right. Well, Steve, to protect ourselves, we know we need to know first where it's coming from. So, identification of the problem is definitely one of them. And I'm not saying that's the only one, right? But of course, as I mentioned to you, natural sources, EMFs also comes from the earth itself, the sun, solar, and even lightning and thunderstorms. So, those we can't avoid. Those really are naturally happening. But if we're talking about man-made, what are these? Power lines, if you see them out there. Household electric wiring. So I always plug something on the wall. Appliances emits EMF. Refrigerators, microwaves, televisions, hair dryers, vacuum cleaners, and even washing machines. Those are also common household sources, and our mobile or different. The more common ones are the mobile phones that we have, and also now everything's Wi-Fi ready, everything's 5G, 4G, and Bluetooth. Always using your headphones, microphone. Everything's wireless nowadays, and also your cell towers for cell phones. And we cook with microwave with the fast life that we have. And one thing that I'm pretty, of course, intrigued about, which I just found out a while ago, smart meters. These are the ones that are being placed in there by your electric company so they can monitor your usage or even water, right? And that's just on on your wall of the household. And of course, the 5G networks that people are talking about. But here are emerging sources that probably everybody should be aware of. Now it's increasing in terms of the the sources, electric vehicles, right? The Teslas, and even smart home devices like smart speakers, thermostats, anything smart that you can like talk to and just it turns on by itself. Wireless charging stations, all these phones, these cars, they're emitting EMFs, and also are very helpful. Thought about wearables. We have the smartwatches, we have our Fitbits, anything that's wireless, anything that's connected to your phone or internet, it's emitting EMF. So now it's expanding. We just not should not consider ourselves in a box that this is where the only places where EMF is coming from. It's getting more and more for us.
So I know my wife is very aware of this, and she's talked about electric cars. She would never have an electric car. She thinks it's like she thinks it's like sitting in a microwave.
Mm,
Um, so what do we do about this? Do we just try to minimize our exposure to this? What do you tell your clients or your
right.
patients who may be having a problem with this? Um, what do you do?
So there are so many things. You're right. More of behavioral. There's a lot of behavioral things or interventions that we can do, meaning reduce screen time. Right? With cell phones, we're using computers, tablets, and then also your headsets. Yeah, minimize as much as possible. If you're making calls, make it far as you can. That's why speaker phones are better, and of course text rather than call, just because of that radiation exposure. And when you're talking about charging your phones all the time, as far as you can, even at nighttime, turn it off, turn it to airplane mode. That's also a better way for you to have assurance that it's not emitting your EMFs. Turn off Wi-Fi so when you're not using it, or Bluetooth. It sounds like I'm asking for too much, right? Because we're so dependent on these things. But as you can see, behavioral interventions are pretty important. And even internet, I have patients who actually plug their internets through a wire. They're not using Wi-Fi. So that's another example for you. And you mentioned about the shields, the covers on your phone. Sure, the blankets, cases, the thing here is we really don't know if they work or not. Studies are not there yet, unless a company can actually give you a study to tell you, hey, Steve, this works. You buy three of these and you're good to go. And that's why I myself, I have it. It's just that, hey, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, at least I tried, right? That's kind of like
Mm,
my mindset about that. And also, again, your wearable techs, just make sure. I see a lot of watches out there. Just be careful. Remove it once in a while. And of course, the thing that I there's one thing that actually surprised me about interventions: grounding, earthing. So this is where you actually take your shoes off, walk on the sand, on land, and touch trees, so that you can actually get your energy neutralized back to baseline again. So again, these are things that probably are not going to be done by all, but it actually has evidence that it actually gets your body back to baseline after exposures to EMFs. And of course, I caution the children. The children are the ones who are most susceptible to the damages of EMF because they're young. The cells are not that protected. They're so, I guess, easy to give bad habits to. Meaning, I don't know. I'm sure you saw these children eating in the restaurant. Here's a iPad for you to just shut you up, and it's like your babysitter. So the kids, be cautious about these children because they're going to get a lot of these effects if you don't stop it early.
yeah, you make some great points. And I guess, in our culture, we're just into convenience and easy and right. Yeah, just give the kid the phone and let him play a video game or let her
Mm-hmm.
play a video game on it or, watch a Barbie movie or whatever,
Right.
just so the parents get their little break. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cultural thing. And it's like, even we do that with our food. I'm just going to eat
Mm-hmm.
what I like, and tomorrow I'll worry about it if I have to. But if I don't have to, I'm just going to eat the seed oils or whatever food I shouldn't be eating again. And I guess your advice is as good as it can be, and that's just be aware of it and minimize it where you can. Is that what you're saying?
Unfortunately, it's just part of our world now. It's an ankle biter that you just can't shake off. That's why everybody's exposed there, unless you're living in the boondocks and there's nothing there, right? And who does that? And you mentioned about cooking. Yes, our favorite microwaves. They definitely produce all of these EMFs as well. And you're right. Avoidance, education, is very important in order for us to minimize, because there are definitely proven health implications about it.
Yeah, it makes me think of something funny. When I was a kid, you know, I'm getting older now, and I used to laugh at what my grandparents used to say. I used to walk to school uphill both ways, stuff like that. But when I was a kid, not only did we not have cell phones, we didn't have answering machines.
Right.
So think about how hard it was to get a hold of someone. They had to be by their phone because there was no answering machines. I mean, answering machines came along when I was, I don't know, in my teens. But before that, there was no answering machines.
Right.
You just had to answer the phone. And how do you get a hold of people? People would go somewhere, they'd drive somewhere, and they'd come back or they didn't come back. There was no way of connecting with people. And I guess we're kind of spoiled by that now.
Well, see, let me tell you how damaging these things are. In more of a molecular level, meaning more of the health implications of this EMF, just for our audience to understand how dangerous it is. What it does as part of its pathophysiology, it increases your reactive oxygen species, meaning there's a lot of oxidative stress. It's killing your cells from outside to inside. When we're talking about DNA damage, they actually saw this pathophysiology too. The EMFs goes through the cell wall and actually attacks your DNA to untangle it. Thus, of course, when you have DNA damage, now you're worried about like cancer formation, right? And there's this transporter called the voltage gated calcium channel. It gets destroyed. It's in the surface of your cell. When you destroy that, the influx of calcium now is so abundant inside the cell, it's like you're shooting bullets inside the cell, and you're just wrecking everything that's inside. It's moving around, stimulating everything. Calcium is stimulatory, and that's why these cells are hyper functioning to the point that of exhaustion and even destruction. And now it goes into your mitochondria. So the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. It produces a lot of cellular energy, and the thing here is, once you destroy those membranes, there goes your ATP production. And again, those are basic ones, but as I mentioned to you, as it manifests now in the bigger scale of the picture, it actually has been proven, for example, to disturb sleep. So it destroys a lot of brain cells just because of that. And also memory. A lot of people just actually just forgets a lot just because they're using more. And also gliomas or brain tumors actually has been studied and has been backed up that the people who uses their cell phones on what specific ear side of the ear that they're using it on, that's where the predilection of this growth would be. Reproductive health, you've heard about this. People putting their cell phones in their pockets, and sperm counts, egg counts go down. So those are actually true, I guess, claims about it. And these are just a few that I'm telling you, and studies are still coming in relation to the bad effects of EMF.
Amazing. And I guess our bodies are kind of electrical, right?
Yep, we are moving energies. That's what we are, basically.
Right. So I could see how this stuff would interfere with, the function of the cells and how the body works, right?
That is correct.
All right, doctor, great information. We all need to try to avoid this stuff as much as possible. Are there any last thoughts or anything that you would add to this?
Well, you know me, you need to have a solution for something, right? Even though I mentioned to you about the behavioral solution to this, yes, we can take something to neutralize the effects of EMF. So, what can we take? Supplements. A good one would be antioxidants. As I mentioned to you, it increases the oxidative stress in your system. That's why there's always a reason, even on a simple multivitamin, that you should be on. These are consistent antioxidants that will neutralize the free radicals that EMFs create. And another one would be, again, on studies, nitric oxide. Nitric oxide has this ability to neutralize EMF's effect on the cell. And as we all know, nitric oxide is a very potent antioxidant as well. It's a vasodilator, and it has a lot of good side effects in relation to, of course, rejuvenating organs, and as an anti aging supplement. So, these two, if you're worried about EMF, definitely have it in your back pocket.
That's great. So to increase nitric oxide, we would take citrulline, right? Because that's a precursor to nitric oxide. I
That's one of
I
them.
take I take citrulline and arginine before I work out, and sometimes after I work out. Is there any other specific supplements that would increase nitric oxide?
Well, really, nitric oxide comes from what we call, I guess, vegetables. So people who just wants to be like, I don't like supplements. I'm gonna eat okay, arugula,
Beets.
spinach, beets, right? Even any most of the time it's just the green cruciferous vegetables, but those are the top ones where you can actually get it. Yeah, I'm concerned about oxalates. Sure, that's also going to be an issue, but if you're into that area of oxalate avoidance, yes, there are supplements that where they remove or extracted the oxalates from these specific sources. That's why even when you mentioned about citrulline, yeah, sure, I give citrulline for healthy people like you. There are people who actually does not have that ability to actually form nitric oxide properly because their enos or their it's hard for them to bind to citrulline to form nitric oxide. That's why we give straight up what we call nitrates, and these are what are in the supplements already. But again, that's a whole nother topic, and I think we spoke about nitric oxide, but we can retouch that again. There's so many new innovations about nitric oxide, but definitely yes, we hear about citrulline, arginine, and even the vitamin B complexes. They're all acting in that cycle of forming nitric oxide.
I know beet powder
Yes,
is
beets. Mhm.
popular for that.
That's right.
All right, well, Doctor, great information. We appreciate it as always. And you guys can check out what Dr. Nario does at Biointegrative Health Center there in Reno, Nevada. You can check them out online. So thanks for being with us, Doctor.
Well, Steve, thank you again for having me. As you all know, that our knowledge is your power to better health. And thank you for letting me provide you with edge on longevity and health maintenance, which I call the biological edge or the bio edge.